Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you. A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means. Today's music is called Telios. Thank you, Rick. What is lucid surrender? Can dreams facilitate psycho-spiritual transformation? Does lucid dreaming allow us to transcend death? These questions and many more with our guest today, Melinda Powell from the Dream Research Institute in London. I am your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. Have you ever been curious what it would be like to immerse yourself in dream ideas from people who are passionate like you are about dreams? This year's IASD conference is June 21 to 25, and it is totally online, so you can attend in your PJs. I'll be teaching about my treasure hunt approach to dreamwork through a lecture, as well as a 4-session experiential morning dream group. There's amazing keynotes plus experiential workshops where you get to actually try out different ways of working with your dreams, and then it's all capped off with a fabulous dream ball, which is music and dancing and your dream costume. What dream character would you like to embody? No flights, just insights. Register now so you can be part of the fun. Click asdreams.org and then click on Register Now. I hope to see you there. Now on to our guest, Melinda Powell. Hello, Melinda.
Thanks for having me. It's a lovely intro.
Oh, good. So good to have you here. Melinda Powell is co-founder of the Dream Research Institute in London and past vice president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. She has authored The Hidden Lives of Dreams, Lucid Surrender, The Alchemy of the Soul, and Lucid Dreaming, and her latest book is called My Dreams My Mother Taught Me, Lessons in Lucid Dreaming from Beyond the Grave. And you can find Melinda at melindapowelldreams.com or driccpe.org.uk, and that's your Dream Research Institute webpage, I'm sure. Right, Melinda?
Yes, right. Thanks for that. I love the way you say those titles. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, you've been on my to get on the show list for some time. I still have a page open on my browser for the last couple of years, honestly, and it just somehow never quite came together until now. And you're one of the presenters at the IASD conference, which I'm so excited about, and I want to but this is just the excuse for getting you on the show, and then to find out that your latest book is all about death and dreaming. It's right in line with some of my most exciting conversations lately. So that's what we want to get to. But let's start with your journey of dreams. Like how did you first get interested in dreaming, and what led you to become a professional?
Yes, well, I first got interested in dreaming in childhood, actually. And that was dreams from the Old Testament, like Joseph and his coat of many colors, and Daniel interpreting dreams that he hadn't even been told. He just downloaded other people's dreams, which I thought was pretty cool as a child. Mm-hmm. And I had lucid dreams as a child. I was very frightened of them. Maybe some of your listeners have had that experience. They're probably already aware a lucid dream is one in where you're aware that you're dreaming while you're in the dream. Mm-hmm. So I would stop those. But when I was an adult, I still kept a dream journal. And I got quite busy in my adult life doing external things as we do, living abroad and traveling. It was a challenging time in my life, quite intense. So I think at those times we're open to more liminal spaces like dreams in ourselves.
When you were at that age, is that the time you say
yes,
that?
Well, I was in my mid-30s when I started doing that training. And I volunteered to do a waking dream process for the first time when I started that training with Nigel Hamilton, who's also an ISAD member. And the dream involved a snake, of which I'm quite terrified of snakes. And I had shared that therapeutically with a therapist and just really hadn't gotten to the bottom of the dream. I just felt it hadn't resolved. And when I went through that dream with Nigel, I re-entered it. I'm happy to share it. It's quite short. So in the dream, I wake up in my bed from my teenage years, and my partner from my first marriage is asleep next to me. And looking around the room, it's nighttime. It's quite beautiful. There's moonlight in the air. The air is almost like water. So I'm quite entranced by this. But then I look across the foot of the bed, and on my dresser, there's this massive rattlesnake. I'm absolutely terrified. I know that you're meant to stay still. And at the same time, I'm quite fascinated by the snake, which is glowing in the moonlight. And then the snake slowly unwinds down the dresser. And as it starts coming closer to me on my side of the bed, you can imagine my heart really racing. I'm sure it's coming on to attack me. And I'm very frightened of that. I'm frightened it might hurt my partner. So instead of staying present within the dream, I wake up right at the moment when the snake is lunging towards me. And so in the waking dream, I was given the opportunity to re-enter that dream and meet that snake again. And it was quite frightening. It took quite a while, but the dream guide reassured me, and eventually I let the snake lunge for me, and it went for the space between my eyes, my third eye area. But it didn't actually kill me. Instead, it really became a beam of light. It was a very profound opening. It was something entirely new to me, a complete shock, really. But I felt it had a deep spiritual meaning for me, and it was a kind of soul awakening. It really felt like my soul came into my body, really, for the first time, in an embodied way. Curiously working with the dream. And
so you highlight something, Melinda, here, which is that the dream kind of opened the door, but your dream work with that dream allowed you to step through it. Like it was the work with this, it was a profound dream, but then also the work was profound and took it to a whole nother level.
Exactly. Yes. And that's it. That's why I'm a real advocate for dream work and the waking dream process.
Right.
So it does. You can re-enter that dream with a kind of lucid awareness.
Right.
And after this experience, then I started having quite intense lucid dreams. Because I was in a space where these type of dreams were accepted, and I was reassured about them. And I allowed them to happen and to unfold. And so by this time in my life, I had done quite a bit in the world. And what I was really curious about in dream lucidity is what I could learn about the spiritual realm, let's say, about the nature of the divine. And so it's quite fitting, I think, with the music you had was named Telios.
Yeah.
So that's quite lovely.
It's kind of synchronistic, that, isn't it?
Yes.
Rick comes up with the names for his music just intuitively when he's creating the music every week. And he told me this week, and I'm like, really? Wow.
He struck the right note with that one.
He really did. He did. So, the sense of spirituality is something that I don't hear talked very much about in terms of dreaming and lucidity. It's something that I feel, and I'm curious. Well, I have kind of two questions. Is my way. There's like lucidity and spirituality, and then is this part of what you call lucid surrender?
Yes, both. I mean, it's the reason I call it lucid surrender is because I was curious in the dream, so I wanted to see what would happen. So I would just wait, and I wasn't quite sure what to do in the lucid dream space.
Right.
And I did ask at a lecture about it, what should one do when lucid?
Right.
And I was told to meditate.
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah, so for me that meant, yes, I mean, at the time I wasn't aware, let's say, Tibetan Buddhism has quite an extensive tradition around that, for example. Mm-hmm. But for me it was entirely new. Mm-hmm. And for me, meditate meant to pray. Mm-hmm. And also, I wanted to keep it quite simple. So I had done a lot of study of comparative religions and lots of different spiritual practices and very intense rituals. I wanted to simply be still and wait. And what helped me do that was to repeat a holy name from the tradition in which I was raised, which is Christianity, and also to sing a sacred song. So that, I suppose, put me in a kind of meditative state. And then the dream would develop in ways, again, that I would not have imagined. And that process of allowing the dream to unfold in a conscious way with an active receptivity is what I refer to as lucid surrender. Mm-hmm. But the name of that expression actually came to me in a dream. So I'm just following really the guidance from the dream on that.
Right. So there is kind of guidance that shows up in dreams, although so many dreams, perhaps even all of them, seem so chaotic and illogical, and what is the use of this? And yet there is a kind of a guidance that emerges from dreams. And you even talk about in terms of how dreams facilitate psychospiritual transformation, that they actually, they have a goal for us. Like they have something that they're leading us towards. That's how I would say it. How would you say it? Is that kind of the right idea?
That's a nice way to put it, yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the Sufi tradition, they talk about the angel that's out ahead of us. Oh. And that angel is a representation of our inner guidance. And it's drawing out qualities we need in the world. It's helping to realize our full potential. And I'd say the dreams are, they're obviously mirroring the day's emotions, our personal psychology. I think residue from the day, we can all recognize that. Right. But once we learn to, say, withdraw our projections from on the dream, recognize it as a dream, or we learn to not be afraid in the dream, to trust it, then the dream can reveal itself as a mirror for, it's as if our minds become clear like a mirror, and then it can reflect something of this celestial sphere, the light of the soul.
Now,
go ahead.
Help
us to realize what our gifts are, what our creative potential is,
right,
and also what our spiritual calling might be. So,
right.
So it's a spectrum.
Okay, and we don't have to be lucid to be able to get these insights, right? I mean, because I struggle with lucidity, and sometimes I give up on it, and it's not a big feature of my dreaming experience. I know some people are way more lucid than others. It sounds like you may be more on the spectrum of higher lucidity, and you'll hear more from my partner Max, who does a lot of lucid dreaming, just automatically, just without intention. Just he's that way. And so there's a whole spectrum of lucidity, and yet I think that these things that you're talking about, that angel that's guiding us, that we don't need to be lucid to follow the angel, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to be, it's a kind of, I would say lucid surrender is really an attitude, a way of being, a way of looking at life, at dreams, because they're reciprocal, aren't they? So, no, you don't. that's lucidity is something that we bring to experience. So
Right.
I'm focused in on speaking with you. So
Right.
doing my best to be
Lucid living.
in that sense.
Lucid living. That's it.
Lucid living.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what about lucid dying? Like, there's a whole thing with the Tibetan dream yogis of that dreaming is a preparation for death. And you've recently finished a book called Dreams My Mother Taught Me, Lessons in Lucid Dreaming from Beyond the Grave. What has been your experience around dreams and death?
Well, going back more philosophically, let's say to Tibetan Buddhism, and this notion, this idea of dying in the dream or practicing dying. Mm-hmm. As also in the Hermetic tradition, going back to, say, Plato, in his Phaedo has Socrates say that true philosophers make dying their profession, where they practice death, practice dying, and the Tao talks about practicing eternity, which I think is the same thing. But it's really a kind of metaphoric sense of, again, surrendering the ego to allow a kind of broader perspective to come in. So I think if we think of death, there's a lot of little deaths in life that we talk about, and poets talk about making love, that climax is a kind of death, because you're surrendering yourself. Your ego is transcended in a sense, or expanded. So when the poet Rumi talks about dying before you die, you can practice, you can get that experience in dream lucidity. But again, whenever we pause to reflect or take a moment to be still, it is a kind of mini death. And when we go to sleep at night, surrender to sleep, that as well. So it's a way of thinking about dying as it's not an end, it's an opening, it's a beginning. We're opening ourselves up to, I suppose, a higher consciousness, or focused,
dying
or
as
attentive
a
way of
beginning.
living.
Dying as a beginning. So surrender.
I forgot about the book. Sorry.
No, we can get to that. No hurry, we got it.
Well, yeah, it's about my mother. I mean, so what's happened is my mother, she died in 2001, and after her death, I wasn't really able to grieve until I had a dream of her. And it was an early, I would say, lucid dream. And in that dream, in the area I grew up in childhood, but it's all, renovated. Everything is kind of tinged this beautiful color blue. And I go to one of the houses in the neighborhood, and I knock on the door, and when it opens, there's a beautiful woman there, but her skin is tinged blue. Everything in the house is blue. And I follow her into a room, and there's my mother on the bed, sitting up, looking beautiful and well and healthy. And all behind her, she's surrounded by people I know, relatives and ancestors from the past. And I run up to her and place my head on the bed and say, "Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry if I hurt you. I love you so much." And then, of course, started crying, and my tears woke me up. So if anyone's lost a parent, I can imagine they relate to that feeling of unfinished, things that you didn't get a chance to say.
Yeah.
So the dream gave a space for that, and also let me grieve and softened I've been quite hard on myself, and softened my heart, really. So what I noticed looking back from that time, from the perspective of, has it been 23 years when I started writing this? I started writing this book a year ago, so nearly 23 years on from her death. I really started noticing how she made appearances in my dreams after her death. And as she did so, my dreams became increasingly lucid, because when I saw her, that would spark lucidity. And also, her presence before lucidity was really reassuring. So when I became lucid, I would have more confidence in allowing the dream to develop as it seemed to want to do, without controlling it or imposing my will on it, because I felt like she had almost blessed it. So, yeah, it's and over time, what happened is she started appearing within dream lucidity in the lucid space. So I noticed that pattern over time, and also how her appearance would change over time. So I can perhaps talk about one of those aspects.
Yeah. How would they change over time? How would her appearance change?
Well, as I said, the first dream, she looked like herself in waking life. And when I would see her in the next set of dreams over the next few years, I want to give her a hug. I could touch her, as it were. But then as I started to be able to contain the lucid experiences more, when I went to touch her, I realized that I couldn't really. She was made of light. Even though she had a body, her body, her dream body was made of light, which I think actually all our dream bodies are. I kind of got that insight in the dream. And then within dream lucidity, initially she would have a physical form, but in one dream, I had been frightened in the lucid space, so I was singing a song from my Sunday school years, and I heard a woman take up the song, and I recognized my mother's voice. I expected I might see her, but instead what I saw was this sphere of light, a white sphere with a purple cube in it, and in that was a red pulsing light, and out of that light was coming her voice and the song, and I knew this was how she was appearing to me, as a being of light within the dream. So I put my hand on the sphere like I was cupping her cheek, and said, Mom, you're here, and does this mean we'll be together when I die? And she just gently laughed, which I took to mean that's not for a while yet, love. So,
good.
But in any case, that developed my evolution over time, and also what I learned about lucid dreaming over time. So that's primarily what the book is about. But obviously I'm writing about my particular experience, but I would like it to offer consolation to others that even when someone we've loved has crossed over, that there's still an opportunity to, amend past wrongs, let's say, and find healing, or to express our love and feelings towards that being, towards that person.
Oh, this is so beautiful, Melinda. I'm really just imagining that the sphere, the cube, and the pulsing red light, and it's just it's very comforting. Very comforting.
Well, that's it. I think it's for all of us to recognize that love continues beyond the grave, really.
Right.
But I really got a sense she was working on my behalf. And so
that that leads me. So this is like this sharing, and I love how you really emphasize that this is your experience, and other people are going to have their own experience, and yet you do have this experience. And I'm wondering that, do you have any sense that this is that this says anything about what's going to happen to us after death, the survival of consciousness after death, or do you have any sense of like communication, or how we might even evolve? Like in your dream, she was evolving, but is that something that she is evolving through, or your relationship to her? Or I don't know. We can't really distinguish. But do you have any like sense of what these kind of dreams say about after death?
Yeah, it's not the end.
Yeah, okay.
There's another chapter, more chapters to come, definitely.
Wow.
I'm sure many, when I say it's this is my experience, I do think when we, for example, if people have heard of near-death experiences,
yeah,
in Lucid Surrender, that's been my path. almost every dream I have has felt rather like a near-death experience when it's been lucid. And the thing is of course, not having to die to have that experience. So
Right.
having it through dream lucidity. But also this sense that, well, I think I've said, that there is a reciprocity between this side of the veil and the other. And healing on this side can help heal on the other. And there are people who do ancestral work to heal traumas from the past, to free future generations from those traumas being, patterns being repeated.
Absolutely. Well, I often feel like I'm doing generational work, ancestral work in my life to heal my ancestors, and then, imagining it going out ahead of me and healing my descendants, not even my literal descendants necessarily, but just the human race.
Humanity. Yes, exactly. And I did, Catherine, just may I also add, of course, I think probably quite a few of your listeners will have had a dream of a deceased loved one. It doesn't have to be a lucid dream.
Right.
And a lot of studies on, psi phenomena and after-death communications have generally show a really high proportion of those events occur in dreams. So my invitation is not to just say, oh, well, it's just a dream. I didn't really see this. That wasn't the real deal. Yeah. It's just a projection of my mind, right? And to actually surrender that kind of waking consciousness attitude. And how do you, if it changes the way you are in interacting in the dream, to allow oneself to experience that deceased loved one in a dream as having their, being real. And in the waking dream work, or dream work, interacting and replaying that type of experience, as it's as if it were really happening. And on some level it is, like Carl Jung said, whatever acts is actual.
Right.
And
well,
if it
yes,
touches you, it's doing something.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, that's, I think dreams are experiences, even just because our body's not involved in the experience. It is an experience. And this is something that came up in a previous dream journal. I can't remember who the guest was. That a dream is something, as a kind of conscious experience that happens, that's independent of the body in a lot of ways. I mean, maybe it's happening inside your brain if you like that kind of thing. But I don't, maybe there's some sense of that it's a conscious experience that's happening, that's kind of independent from the body, which leads us to the idea that consciousness can continue without a body, because there's, we can have experience. Every night we experience consciousness that's not arising from the body.
Well, there's another way to think about it. You can think we dream because we have bodies. Because we have these physical experiences that we rehearse in the dreams, and it is a reciprocity as well. But I mean, there's also the offering, especially the yogic traditions, of course, have the subtle body. So we've got, and the idea that we have different kinds of bodies. So the physical body. Yes, but also there's this subtle body, and in our dreams we get in touch with that.
Right.
More subtle aspect, and especially it's accelerated in dream lucidity because one is more conscious of the freedom from the restrictions of space-time consciousness, whereas in a non-lucid dream, we're kind of still bound by the perceived laws of our waking experience. Anyway, slightly.
Yeah,
it's curious. I mean, in alchemy, it's just a correspondence. The body it's a microcosm for the macrocosm. So it is physical, but it's also subtle, isn't it? It also has a spiritual import, and they're intertwined. They're unified.
Melinda, this is wonderful. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have, the time is ticking, and I've let the time get away from us, which is my one job here, is to watch the time. This is a fascinating conversation, and we have much more to come. We have on the other half of the break, which is coming up right now. And I'd like to let our listeners know our guest is Melinda Powell, and you can find her at melindapowelldreams.com, and her new book is called Dreams My Mother Taught Me, Lessons in Lucid Dreaming from Beyond the Grave. So the Dream Journal is broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU. We will be right back. You are listening to The Dream Journal. I am Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork. I'd like to send out a warm welcome to our far-flung listeners. We have our local folks, Santa Cruz, San Jose, Walnut Creek, Fresno, and then in Chicago, Kitchener, Ontario, Bohaneros, Quebec, California, and London, England. So glad to have you listening in. So people all over the world are interested in dreams, and if you want to help us nudge the algorithm to spread that interest, please follow the Dream Journal on your favorite podcast app, and of course leave a rating or a review if you are so inspired. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram to find out about upcoming shows and pod drops. Follow hashtag the Dream Journal and at Experiential Dreamwork. At Experiential Dreamwork is also on LinkedIn, Linktree, YouTube, every place I could think of. Well, not quite every place, but a lot of different places. And really, the most important thing, though, is to get you talking about dreams to your friends. So if you're interested in these topics of lucid dreaming and what it means when we die, and the idea of surrendering to the moment, I just encourage you to talk to your friends. I really have a mission to get people talking to each other and spreading interest in life beyond the physical. So please contact me also if you'd like to be a guest on the show. You can talk about a new book, or you can let folks know about your dream-related offerings. I have new live shows almost every week, and so give me a email or DM me on one of the social medias there. So I told you about that big IASD conference coming up in June. You can find out about that at asdreams.org. But also, please mark your calendar for a local in-person event at the beautiful Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History. The Festival of Dreams is back. The dates are October 10th through 12th. Hosted by me and Linda Mastrangelo. Next week, we welcome the author Megan Walrod, a Santa Cruz native and a personal growth catalyst. Her new book is a novel called It's Always Been Me, and the novel takes place in and around Santa Cruz, anonymously, of course, and features quite a few prominent dreams. So I'm excited to be talking to Megan next week, Megan Walrod. Today's guest is Melinda Powell. She's one of the founders of the Dream Research Institute. You can find her at melindapowelldreams.com. Also at driccpe.org.uk, which is the Dream Research Institute webpage. So I wanted to read you the email that I got from Cassie. Hi, Cassie. Thanks for writing. So this is what Cassie says. She says, hello, wishing you every success on your new book, which I look forward to reading and which I know will show us pathways to meet our loved ones in other realms. Thank you for your warm spirit. Thank you for that email, Cassie. So, Melinda, this is a good reminder before we get to a question. I know I have an in-studio question here, but I want to say, can you say a little bit about how can we meet our loved ones in the realm of dreaming? Because, my father died a year and a half ago, and I've He's been in a few dreams, but I would love to dream about him more. Do you have any suggestions on how we can enhance that whole process?
Oh, I just was thinking of, maybe there's no one answer to that question really, because I think sometimes a soul on the other side might have something to work out in terms of the relationship, and so there's some work that's left unfinished, and so I wasn't really cultivating seeing my mother in dreams, but I suppose I was open to the idea should it happen, which you clearly are. So I might then wonder, perhaps the loved one is, if has felt something's complete in that process. But the other way to do it is a bit like with, say, if you had a dream of your father, for example, you'd work with that dream, right? But you can also, with creative imagination, call up the image of your father and have an exchange with him. What is it you would like to say? What is it you would like him to ask you? And therapeutically, and in the Gestalt tradition, transpersonal, integrative type of therapies, when we do grief counseling, this is a kind of opportunity we'll give people if they'd like to do that. And that, honestly, very much like going over a dream, has real profound import for them. So, again, it's that spectrum of consciousness you were talking about. It doesn't have to be a lucid dream. It doesn't have to be a dream per se. It can be within your faculty of creative imagination. So,
right, it doesn't even have to be a lucid dream, and it doesn't have to even be a dream. It can be a waking dream. Okay.
Yes.
I appreciate that. That is such a good, I feel like that's really good permission to just explore that realm even in waking space, and to make some time for myself to have that conversation and imagine him there, and what would that be like? Yeah.
And another writing a letter, having the loved one if they were writing a letter back, and it's almost a kind of spontaneous, if you just don't overthink it and allow that intuition to take over. It'll be very, revealing process. So.
Okay. Thank you. Those are two very, very, very good suggestions. I really appreciate that. So I'd like to get in the studio here, my husband Max Deaton, who is this is getting to be a bit of a serial conversation. The whole idea of
it is. This is where I hijack your show for my own purposes.
So yeah.
Okay. I was really captured by the way you described your surrender in dreams, how you surrender to them and let them teach you what they're going to teach you. I find myself doing that a lot too. Like, I'm pretty lucid in my dreams, and I find that I get more out of them if I just stand back and listen. So I was very touched by that. Also,
I just wondered, might you say what happens next sometime?
Yes. I was going to get into that.
Okay.
So I find myself over the years, I think I've changed my approach to life to match more my approach to my dreams. And
you changed your approach to life, and it changed your approach to dreams. And it sounds like vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
it's a little bit hard to hear. Is that on my end?
Let's see if we can get him a little closer.
Okay, how's this now?
Oh, that's better. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And then the other one was how your loved ones can come back to you as a disembodied character in your dreams. You had a very focused place for it. Do you ever have them just sort of like a presence you can sense, but not that you can focus on, as like a sphere or something like that?
Yes, whether it's saying the sphere of light, but again, this is across the spectrum, but in dream lucidity, or in a dream, or in waking life, I mean, the sense that, looking over my shoulder, looking out for me. And this goes back to this other, if I may just add to my previous comment. I said, in my dreams from my mother, I had a letter from her in which she said, basically, if I understood how you were, I would have raised you differently.
Oh, wow.
And not to worry, I'm going before you now. And you basically trust and let life unfold. And so I think that there was a sense that I needed some help in the situations that I was in life. And I think there was that urgency. And I was thinking of the previous question is perhaps your loved one, it feels secure in the sense that you're somehow in a good place and not in, let's say, dire need, let's put it that way, of this extra help. And maybe it's sometimes the timing people appear from the other side to offer help.
That's an interesting thought.
And that is
a different way to think about it. So I'm sorry. So did you have more you wanted to?
I did have one more thing. I found that letting go and letting people be themselves is a good thing to have when you're raising children. There's a certain point where you have to be able to do that. And that's something I think I learned from dreams, too.
It's wonderful. Yeah. Can you get, I was going to say, any example of one of those, experiences you've shared?
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd be welcome if you felt like it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the dreams about letting your children go and be who they are and finding out how strong and incredible they are, those come up fairly frequently for me. And they usually center around my kids, but other times they center around just people in general. How you really will be surprised if you can let people play to their strong suit and support them in that instead of trying to tell them how to be.
That's lovely.
But
those people around you, I'm sure they're very blessed to have that insight that you've got in the dreams. So
yeah. But this is a case where the dreams teach you how to act in real life, I think.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah. So anyway, I really was intrigued when you started talking about surrender and dreams and lucidity, because that's something that's really shaped my approach to everything here for dreaming.
Well, thank you for that. Yes. I think this idea of dream shaping life and life shaping dreams, that's absolutely it's been my experience, especially when you follow, as you're doing, the teaching, the guidance that you get from the dreams. And then it's the kind of line between the two seems to emerge a bit in a healthy, let's say, way.
Yeah, I think so.
You had kind of taking that first step in trust.
Like a conversation. So the waking life and the dream life are like a conversation. And then my mind goes to, is there also a conversation between life and between life? Like that we have a life and then go back and make some adjustments, or I don't know, something, and then have another life, right?
Well, I think that one's an ongoing mystery, let's say.
I agree.
I have a slight aversion to the idea of having to come back, but in one of my lucid dreams, I was told they were doing a kind of soul-saving surgery on me, so I was in a bad place, and that, given what I'd learned from the dreams, I would have to come back, and I wasn't terribly happy about that. I had a long conversation with the lady in the dream.
It is kind of an exhausting thought, actually. Right? When do I get to rest?
Well, it's also, in near-death experiences, very often you hear that people say, they're not so keen to go back to the earthly existence, having tasted life on the other side, where it seems the predominant experience is of love and beauty, really. So.
And it could be your approach to the surrender in your dreams and surrender in life helps you out with that, because death can otherwise sort of seem like a cleansing experience where you're broken off from all your responsibilities and everything you've done before. whereas, and so your need to fix them and stuff like that is dealt with. But
yes, I mean, I don't want to give the impression that having these lucid dreams has been easy for me. I'm talking over, since 2005, really, letting them develop. And it's as if I was being trained up. I really had to learn to trust. I was terrified of the dark, and often after I surrendered, the dreamscape fell away into this kind of luminous void or darkness, which I found very powerful and intimidated by. So I had to withdraw my projections and learn to trust. So it was a lesson over time. Jung has this lovely quote about how the face that we turn towards the unconscious is the face that it turns towards us.
Wow.
But I think it's as you were saying before, when you take away the demands, I'd say therapeutically, the projections we put onto people we love and see them for themselves, then something, you have a different kind of experience with that person. And the same is true in lucidity. Really, it just opens up the potential within the dream.
Yeah.
Beyond our imagining, that you just don't get to the bottom of it. So,
well, Melinda, I have to say, if the face is about surrender, then maybe the void is a natural consequence of surrender. Like that is kind of surrender for me is a kind of a feeling of openness and not having a directive, not having just like being open to something. And the ultimate of that to me is like a void. I mean, I've heard of this sort of luminous void in lucid dreaming as.
I'd say I would say it is kind of like a ground of being, isn't it? But it's a seeming void in the sense that it's full of all the potentiality of manifestation. This kind of constant, infinite creative potential. So it might seem empty, and it is, as you say, luminous. So it is light.
And it has the potentiality of all things. Oh my goodness. Well, Max, we need to wind up. Thank you. I'm so glad that you spoke up.
Just one more thing to say to her.
Sure.
I really admire your courage in letting your lucidity not take control of your dreams. That's a tough step for anybody, I think.
Well, it's just being, I think the other way to look at it is, to frame it, is to just be curious. So these things are happening. You don't, to remind yourself, you don't have to be afraid, not just because it's a dream, but because the dreams aren't really there ever to harm us. They're there to they're ahead of us to help draw us out. So
Melinda, this is Melinda Powell, the co-founder of the Dream Research Institute in London.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, what is the best way for folks to get in touch with you and to find out about your teaching and your books?
Yes, I mean, there's the website you mentioned. Thank you very much.
That's melindapowelldreams.com.
Yes, thank you for that. And, I can't think of anything else. Catherine, I want to say thank you for the dreaming community you fostered over time. You've done so much, and I'm just very grateful for that.
Oh, thank you. Melinda, that means a lot to me. This is something that I am passionate about, and yet I feel like I kind of just followed my nose, and I don't like, and thank you.
You followed your dreams.
I followed my dreams. That is it. All right. Any last minute encouragements for our listeners, Melinda?
Well, it's a trust your dreams, for in them you find the gate to eternity.
Beautiful.
That's from Khalil Gibran, but it's a motto to live by for dream life.
Can you say one more time? Trust your dreams.
Yes, for in them you find the gate to eternity.
Beautiful. Thank you, Melinda.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thanks to your listeners as well.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So, thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. I am Catherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. Email me at catherine@ksqd.org, Katherine at ksqd.org. Follow Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag the Dreamwork Journal on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to find out about upcoming shows. I'd like to thank Rick Cluffel, engineer and music creator, audio editing by Suki Wrestling, phones by Tony Russimano, intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. And tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.